something like Hrithik happened in the year 2000.
Yes.
We're 25 years after Hrithik happened.
Yes.
But it took 25 years for Ahan to happen.
Yes, exactly.
25 साल से एक लड़के का इस तरीके से लॉन्च
Breakout,
होना,
absolutely.
तुम्हारे कोई सपने थे तुम्हारे खुद के लॉन्च के लिए? Because I'm just wondering, like,
Yeah.
it's around you.
Yes, yes,
it's
yes.
hard to escape.
Yes.
So how did you negotiate that?
In the beginning, there was always that thought of, oh, look, it'd be great if somebody gives you an opportunity where you just make a splash. Even after the sort of the first film came out, what was interesting was anyone who saw it really enjoyed it, but not many people saw it because, the
Pandemic, all of that.
pandemic,
बिल्कुल.
platforms were just sort of beginning to
Yeah, start
get their
off.
spike in a way.
बिल्कुल.
So that was a bit like, oh, that was not in your...
तो आप तुम कह रहे हो कि जो बम्फाड़ ओरिजिनली जो फिल्म थी वो थिएट्रिकल होने वाली थी?
हाँ, of course. Yeah. But that's okay, I think in that sense, that's life, right? I mean, that's the pandemic happened. What are you going to do? And somebody like an Ahan Pandey, his journey is actually, I mean, like, I can't purport to talk about somebody else with authority, but I know one thing, that there's no such thing as an overnight star. The patience, the hard work, the disappointments and the rejections that even somebody like him would have faced.
Of course.
And like, when you talk about Hrithik Roshan, his struggles with his speech stuff was quite well sort of,
Now we know about it.
Yes, exactly. But then that was the journey he had to become who he was. And then, of course, fortune played a great part. But there's also that thing about, like, plus you don't have control over when fortune will play its part. So it's that thing of you got to be there. You always have to turn up so that when fortune strikes, you are ready for it. कहते हैं ना कि भगवान तो देगा, पहले तो काबिल तो बन.
ये जो तुम्हारी समझ है, ये जो तुम्हारा कहीं ना कहीं एक सहजता है,
जी.
Okay, ये कहाँ से आता है? Does it come more from your father or your mother?
I think both in a different way. Whereas with my mother, there's a lot of hard work, there's a lot of joy and passion, no matter what she's doing, regardless of the disappointments that have come before or the lack of fulfillment that might come from something. With my father, it's very interesting. I have always seen him as somebody who doesn't care. As in about the success or the result or the failure or whatever. Now, as I'm growing older, as I'm understanding him better, maybe that's also his way of keeping himself sane, because the ups and downs that he would have seen are immense, right? So the kind of, just dusting it off your shoulder and moving forward, I would say comes from my father.
Yeah, I think that what your father, also shows me is a sense of work ethic.
Absolutely.
Which is that get up, go to work.
Yes.
That's the most important thing.
Yes.
You're good at your job. I mean, he's one of the best actors that we've ever seen. Okay.
Right.
But I think him, and there are so many actors like that who've just come and done a great job every time.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, Paresh Rawal's in a film, you're watching the film.
Yeah.
Okay. And the idea of, changing the definition of the leading man.
Yes.
And I think Hera Pheri was a film that did that.
Right.
For me, you can't think of a Hera Pheri without him.
Of course not, yeah.
So there was 3 of them,
Yeah.
okay, and he's been playing that game for so many years.
Yes.
Even till
Yes.
today. What does Paresh Rawal's career, teach his son, Aditya Rawal?
Oof, it's the perseverance, like you're saying, the idea that you gotta keep on keeping on. And with him, which is something that'll appear sort of later in life, hopefully, if, one has a run as long as his, is the refreshing of his own sort of image, of his own identity, of his craft, reimagining himself, breaking an image to, create a whole other one, and then dispensing with that and going on to something else until a point where there is no image to this person. Yes, he's been a great villain, he's been a great comedic actor, he's been a great actor in dramas.
Yeah.
Because of the way he kind of kept reinventing himself. So those 2 things, and the one thing that I want is his versatility. Because, the greatest, not greatest, I don't know, it's hard to say for, people of that level. But the one thing I do know is, if you think about it, what actor can play a person from any part of the country in any tone or any genre? Right? You take Oye Lucky Lucky, he has played 3 people from a similar region of the country, and they're still so different.
Yeah.
So वो level की versatility.
Goat आदमी है यार आपके father. Goat आदमी. Oh my God. Did you have that feeling when you were growing up around him that he is truly one of the finest? What were your impressions of him growing up?
I was always impressed by him because I was watching him on stage. And then the idea that when you're seeing somebody so up close, you're seeing them make the play, because rehearsals I would go for. So I was always in awe or aware of his talent and his capabilities. I think, actually, to be honest, bachpan se he was always Paresh Rawal. He was always also somebody who kind of shirked that side of him. So I think part of that has also sort of percolated to my brother and I, where we also, of course, would love the attention, but we're also like wary of it because,
You've seen
wo
it.
sab maya jaal hai. So, yeah, I mean, it's just been great. It's a lot of lessons that like the way I behave now might come naturally to me, but I know it's because of lessons I learned
From him.
from them.
From him, yeah,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
from
yeah,
your
back in the
mum.
past. Yeah, exactly.
I remember listening or watching the podcast that he did. It was so lovely because you really got to know him as a human being,
Yes, yes.
and he doesn't allow that too much.
No, he does not. Yeah,
है ना?
yeah.
So he's intensely private, but
Yes.
his work is extremely public.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes,
amazing. What do you like? Are you intensely private? Your work is public. Are you now discovering that people have an interest in you? How has, I wouldn't say success,
Yes.
or how has recognition
Yeah.
changed your life?
I would say it's very gratifying because the conversations that tend to happen now are still about the work that I'm doing, right? So if somebody is recognizing me, it is because of something they've seen of mine, or whether it's a play, whether it's a film, something like that. That is really gratifying. I don't think my personal life is interesting enough for it to be, fodder for tabloids.
You're not a pap friendly
अब friendly का
kid.
सवाल है नहीं, मतलब yeah, I mean it's like there have been occasions where I think there was one Faraz premiere only or stuff, something where I had a buzz cut in the film, right? And then I had this kind of hair so in my own premiere I'm sort of walking by and there were paps meant for the guests and the actors and stuff, but even they didn't recognize me. Even I was like, यार अभी मैं, and then it's very awkward because you're like, अच्छा आप जाके खड़े रहोगे, so they get the idea that they're supposed to take a picture, so that part of it is something that I'm learning. But as a pap friendly, not friendly, I've not even begun to discover.
You've not even
that.
begun to
Yeah,
discover it.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
okay. It's part of the game. It's a lot of fun.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
sure
yeah,
of it.
yeah.
The one thing I'm realizing is that is also hard work.
इस इंडस्ट्री में more than 90% of the time they meet you at a party, okay, and they're like, यार why didn't I, because it's about top of mind, right?
Absolutely.
इसीलिए तो लोग जाते हैं रेड कार्पेट्स में,
जी बिल्कुल.
इसीलिए तो लोग जाते हैं अवार्ड शो पे कि कोई डायरेक्टर ने आपको देख लिया,
हाँ,
और
दो
फिर उनको
बातें कर ली.
याद
हाँ,
आया कि
exactly.
यार ये लड़का कितना अच्छा था, मुझे याद है, मैं इसके बारे में क्यों नहीं सोच
जी.
रहा हूँ. आपका रिश्ता सोशल मीडिया के साथ कैसा है?
सीख रहा हूँ मैं सीख रहा हूँ. मैं आई एम,
बट तुम तो डिजिटल नेटिव हो यार, तुम ही तो हो जेनजी मिलेनियल ना.
नहीं देखो, बट हाँ वो है, बट मैं थोड़ा सा लड़ाइट किस्म का आदमी हूँ. तो मुझे टेक्नोलॉजी से थोड़ा मतलब आई एम बिगिनिंग टू सॉर्ट ऑफ रेसल with social media and all of that, and then what happens is, like, because what I was speaking about individuality, you know who you are, you know what you want, so then there is also that thing of like, you don't want to go overboard and like lose yourself in the mire of social media, right? So to kind of work with that in a way that benefits you but doesn't harm you,
Okay.
is something I am learning to do, which again is work.
Are you listening to your fans on social?
Yeah,
Are there
a lot of
DMs?
people are very
How
sweet.
is it? How is that relationship building?
So far people have been, regardless of what I've done, they've been very kind, and I think that is also because they're happy to see somebody who is acting.
Yeah.
And not के अरे इसको यहाँ पे देख लिया, वहाँ पे देख लिया, इसका ये controversy हो गया, he's going out with this one or that one. So then they are able to engage with you on the level that you want to engage on, which is with your work. So so there's been a lot of that, and as of now, to be very honest with you, it's not like I'm inundated by
Fair.
messages that I cannot respond to all of them. Of course, I cannot respond to all of them, but I do sort of make a point to respond to messages, especially if
as
it's
many as you can.
Yeah, especially if it's a it's that thing of कि किसी ने आपको सोशल मीडिया पे हाय बोला तो आप क्या बोलोगे सामने, बट अगर किसी ने कोई सही का सवाल किया तो फिर I'm
आप
actually
engage
happy.
कर सकते हो.
Yes, very much so.
Do people change your perception of you when they realize that you come from lineage? Because I just feel like I didn't know you at all.
Right.
Okay, when I watched Faraz.
Yeah.
I remember just looking at you as an actor.
Yes.
And I think it was much later that I figured, because I had by the time I think Siachen भी हुई थी,
Yes, yes,
and हमारा
yes.
बहुत interaction तब शुरू हो
Correct,
चुका था.
correct.
मुझे कोई idea नहीं था, you know.
Right.
And I remember on another time, I think Akarsh told me.
Yeah.
Akarsh Khurana.
Yes, yes, yes.
He
The
was
wonderful
like,
Akarsh Khurana.
he's Paresh Rawal's son, yeah. And I was like, what? And I remember my perception of you changing.
Yes.
And it's natural.
Of course.
Because there is so much respect for the work that your father brings.
Yes.
Do you see people also change in the way they treat you?
Yes, but it's interesting. So there's two. It's a bit of a long answer, right? So one is that it changes in the short term. The moment that they kind of, it literally, I'm telling you, it changes sometimes. If you have multiple day-long engagements with people, it changes within hours. So as in it changes and then it changes back within hours. Because first they're like, oh, acha, okay, please, 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 whatever, you know.
Okay.
And then immediately, if you are able to put them at ease,
Yeah, yeah.
then they are able to, they sort of become sort of more chill or easier
Then you
with
come into play.
Exactly.
It's about who you are.
It's about
then.
who you are. And the best way to do that, I have found, is actually be curious about the samne wala.
Sure.
The moment you ask somebody about their life, sure, maybe they'll be a little bit, of course, everyone exaggerates,
Yeah.
right? But at some point, they will then engage with you as themselves.
As themselves,
Because
yeah, of
you
course.
put them in that position where they have to be themselves. You know, so that I find is very helpful. And now the flip side is that when people like yourself, like you just mentioned, when they discover you through your work, and then they are like, oh, acha, Paresh, okay, that's great. And then there's also that, which, great. I mean, again, it's in a way, it's its own reverse privilege. But they're like, oh, you're not necessarily, you know, going to town about who your parents are and not using
I've
that.
noticed that, yes.
So then there is some respect for that also. But then in a funny way, that is also a privilege.
Yeah.
No? So,
is there a pressure? Because, you know, you come
Yeah.
from, you know, two actors.
Yes, yes,
Who
yes.
are so, मतलब वो इतने सक्षम हैं.
Correct.
तो ये सबसे पूछा जाता है.
जी,
And
जी.
it's not, I mean, from an Abhishek Bachchan
Of course, yeah.
to an Aditya Rawal, you would always be asked this, ke, do you feel that pressure? How have you navigated that for yourself?
So one always knew that you have to create your own identity. But also, you're talking about my mother who was Miss India at 21 years old, and my father who's been working non-stop for 40 years.
Yeah.
So then where is the question of comparison? I am not a top model in the country by 20, and I don't have a 40-year-long career. So how can I compare?
Correct.
You know, so if I get a career that's even half as long, then you can discuss. No? Then you can see कि अच्छा हाँ आदित्य की अभी क्या आदित्य की 5 फिल्में परेश रावल की 400 फिल्में के सामने क्या है और तो they are in a way the advantage is that they're so accomplished they're so great that I don't have to worry about it right now
कि मुझे कोई टेंशन ही
हाँ
नहीं,
मतलब
प्रेशर है ही नहीं.
अभी तो कहाँ अभी तो वही है ना वो लोग बाद में देखेंगे